So these corporations for years argued that increasing wages would cost jobs for low-wage employees. Their actions now shows that the argument they've been making for years is complete BS.
Keep it 100, I be feeling like Campbell soup over white rice, baked chicken with the skin on, yeah, Lowry's with black pepper, I'm fully seasoned with laughter.
What's good, 100%ers? It's your boy Dre, and welcome to my channel, Keep It 100 Dre. So, Amazon, McDonald's, Chipotle, Olive Garden, and other large corporations are raising their wages in order to attract new employees. Amazon in particular, they're raising their wages to $17 an hour, along with the $1,000 signing bonus, plus an additional $100 for newly fully vaccinated hirees. So these corporations for years argued that increasing wages would cost jobs for low-wage employees. Their actions now shows that the argument they've been making for years is complete BS. They also argued that if wages were raised to a living wage, that there would be an exuberant increase in the price of goods. Let's use McDonald's as an example. If the costs were passed on to the consumers, the price of a Big Mac would increase anywhere between 15 cents to $1.50 maximum. But most recent studies show that the price of a Big Mac would increase on average only about 66 cents. But living in New York, from my experience, the minimum wage got raised from $10 an hour to $15 an hour in the span of 2 years. The price of a Big Mac didn't increase whatsoever, and the cost overall for McDonald's, they still have all the same deals. Make of that what you want. If Walmart were to raise their wages by passing on the prices to consumers, the prices of their goods would increase on average 1.6%. This means the cost of a 74-cent pack of mac and cheese will now be 76 cents. But they don't actually have to pass the cost on to consumers. An example of this would be Costco's, who has had a $15 minimum wage for well over a decade at this point. And they increased the wages for their employees annually. And they didn't have to lay off a single worker. This was even true during the Great Recession of 2008. A single Costco employee was not laid off during that time period. So that point is a perfect segue to my next point. These large corporations argue that if they increase the minimum wage to a living wage, they will have to lay off workers and replace them with kiosks. Well, right now, these large corporations are increasing wages and they're looking to hire more workers. So that argument has always been complete BS. Furthermore, during the Industrial Revolution, prior to a minimum wage even existing, jobs were being replaced by machine. Manual labor was replaced by machines. And why is that? Technology causes jobs to be replaced, not wages, and not increasing the wages. An increase in the wage does not accelerate that. In a capitalistic system, a company's fiduciary responsibility is to maximize profits for shareholders. So when they have the technology to replace workers, they will try their very best to do so, and it has nothing to do with increasing the wages. It has to do with them having the technology and the ability to do so. So that begs the question, what about small businesses that can't afford to pay their employees a living wage? The answer to that, the federal government can subsidize these small businesses, these mom and pop shops, and split the difference in what they can afford to pay. They certainly have the ability to do so. They subsidize large corporation like Exxon to the tune of billions of dollars annually. But another very fair argument is if you don't have the ability to pay your workers enough for them to survive, you shouldn't be able to operate a business. Because where does that argument end? Where's the line? What if you can only afford to pay your employees just 50 cents an hour or 50 cents a day, a penny a day? Do you have the right to live very comfortably, potentially, or even barely make it while the employees who are putting in work have nothing? They can't afford to pay bills because being paid so little. Where do you draw that line? So Jimmy Dore makes a very great and valid argument here.
It is also true too, though, Jimmy, that like if you look at like some struggling mom and pop retailer around the country, like a lot of them are paying their workers like $9-10 an hour, and then if you say, hey, it's $15, like some of them might cut back shifts or some of them might struggle. Like I've run a small private company, and a lot of these small businesses are really, really close to, you know, like the red at any moment in time. Mm-hmm. And something that seems like completely common sense to us, being like, hey, just pay people $15 an hour, mm-hmm. actually would cause some of these businesses to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to cut a shift or cut a worker at the margins. So again, I just rather just give people the raise directly, and I think workers would prefer that too. If we just put $1,000 a month in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, again, the UBI is you're correct on that, and you're incorrect on the other stuff. Businesses hire when there's a demand for their product. End of sentence. And if there's a demand for their product, they got to hire a worker. And nobody's going to go, boy, I have all these orders, but I can't pay that guy $15, so I'm not going to fill them. So that's illogical. That is a right-wing talking point. That is not how economics works.
Businesses are not flourishing at that level. If they're just living hand to mouth and they don't have the orders, and they have a hard time even paying the people they have, if you elevate those costs, it might in some situations mean they cut shifts or cut workers. I mean, that is not economic theory. That is sound. That is right-wing talking points. But right, I have a small business. We have 6-7 employees at this place right here. And if I can't afford to pay someone a living wage, I should go out of business. Why should I be able to make a living wage, but the person who generates that income for me doesn't get to have a living wage? That's ridiculous.
So finally, let's talk about the fight for 15 and where they are and where they have been falling short. The fight for 15 should have never been the fight for 15 in the first place. It should have been the fight for $25 or $30 an hour. When negotiating, you don't start at the point that you want. You start at a point reasonably higher or lower than the point that you're actually looking to achieve. It's been over a decade at this point since the fight for 15 began, and there has been some headway made, but not even close to enough. Republicans have proposed increasing the federal minimum wage to $10 an hour, and Democrats seem content with the federal minimum wage being at $11 an hour. Had the fight for 15 been the fight for 25, or even the fight for 30, the middle ground position at this point would probably be, if not, be $15 an hour today. The fight for 15 needs to be updated to the fight for 25 or 30. And maybe, just maybe one day, we will actually get $15 an hour, or hopefully a little more. So that's all I gotta say for this video. I really appreciate you watching. If you like the content, like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications so you know I post videos in the future. But I gotta leave you with one more thing before the video is over, and that's the word of the day. The word of the day for today is bamboozled. Bamboozled is spelled BAMBOOZLED. The definition of bamboozled is to deceive by underhanded methods, duped, or hoodwinked. So now I will attempt to use bamboozled in the sentence. People have been bamboozled by the propaganda put out by corporations for decades and accepted that a living wage was not possible in the richest country in the history of the world. Hopefully I use that in the sentence correctly. So again, if you like the content, like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications so you know when I post videos in the future, and use bamboozled in the comment section below in the sentence so I know you watched the video to the end. Again, I really appreciate you watching the video. Under the sentence. Peace.
Well, I've been stacking up. Nah, really that ain't accurate, cause I just spent my whole damn advance in the past couple months just to compensate for times we ain't have enough. Ooh.